Alright, this is the final part of the PRS kit project. I've got my pearl paint on. It's sitting really nice. And I'm going to go back and put my 2K clear gloss on from Eastwood. You can get that below in the link. This paint is very finicky, and even though I went back and I filled, I got everything all perfect where I could find it, there are a couple spots where this paint is really thin and you can see some marks. So there's a little zinger there. I didn't put any filler right there. Got a little zing right there. And then you can see the edge. So one of my mistakes is I should have sanded this again on my sander. As this dried, as it came overseas, I thought it was flat. It wasn't. And you can see the lip of the maple top on the mahogany body, which I'm okay with that, but you can see it. Just so you know, when you get these bodies, sand them down, get them so they're flat, then when you seal it, you shouldn't get that lip. So here it's not so bad, but here it's visible. Being a little picky. Headstock turned out really nice. I scraped it. We thought I was going to end up painting it, but I just scraped it down and I scraped the binding so it looks like a real wood binding. So I taped off the fretboard because we're going to leave the fretboard with a low gloss, and we're going to hit this with the 2K. Again, 2K is really nice to use, nice thick coat. This Eastwood stuff is cool. You take the cap, put it on the bottom, push down. Now it's mixed. Shake it again so that it mixes up in the can. The first coat we put on is going to be really light. Don't want to build. We just want to make sure that it seals the body, seals the pearl, and then we'll put on some real heavy coats later. So your first 3 or 4 coats are just really light, locks in the color, doesn't bring it back out, so it doesn't melt on you. That's a huge deal sometimes. You want to make sure you got the right compatible stuff, and if you put a mist coat on of this stuff, it locks it in. So I'll put this on first, get it all set, and this should be probably a 3-day process. This is the Thursday before Labor Day. Hoping I can have this buffed out within 2 weeks. I let this dry a little bit longer. I could smell it was still gassing out. Make sure your tape's down. Make sure everything's all set. I think we're good to go. Again, I'm put the GoPro on and show you this. So we'll get the can shook up here again a little bit more. And then we're going to apply the mist coat. The mist coat is just a really light coat over the back and the front. And like I said, it helps seal the paint in. Won't get it to bleed out, sort of burn back out into the finish. If I went ahead and put a really, really thick coat on, the finish would get all runny. Paint would get all runny. I'm going to try and do the headstock, which is open grain wood, in this. Doesn't work out. I end up sanding it off in the end. But we'll go ahead and attempt that here. So that's it. That's the first coat. Let this sit for about 10 minutes. And then we'll come back and do the same thing again, which is here. Start on the top. Come down, nice even pattern and spray. The first couple of coats are much lighter than the last couple of coats. I've got about 6 coats on here in total. I didn't film the later coats, I just filmed sort of the first 3 so you could see how light those first 3 coats are. Just a quick spray, get it to seal in, let it dry for 15 minutes, do this for the first 3 coats. And then for the next 3 coats, I go much heavier and apply it a little bit thicker, and I let that dry for about 3 or 4 days. Sand it, and then apply another coat, sort of a final coat. So here we're going to get a sanding pad and some 320, and once this has been dried for about 3 or 4 days, I'll sand out with 320 up to 800. And then I'll apply one more coat and get it to sort of sit on perfectly, get any gaps orange peel, etc. off. And so that first set of sanding really helps get an even coat, even shine. So we'll get this all sanded, all the nooks and crannies clean. Apply one more coat, a couple more coats on the top and back, and you'll get a perfect finish at that point. Then you can take the sanding up to 2000 grit. So a lot of back and forth, a lot of sanding to get the finish right. So I got my vacuum cleaner sucking up all the dust. We start with 320, 800, wipe it down, and then apply one more coat. Then come back again with 800, 1500, 2000, and then you can take it to the buffer. So we'll get this all cleaned up, get it sanded out to 1500. Got a lot of different types of tools here. I've got a foam sanding pad that allows me to stay with the contours of the top. I'll cut a couple pieces of sandpaper here to get the orange peel on the side and on the back. And then once you're done sanding, we'll take this to my buffer. So this is my homemade buffer. We'll apply some buffing compound, fine buffing compound. And we'll spend about 20 minutes buffing this all out. So you really want to make sure you load up that wheel with some buffing compound. Then grab that guitar with your life and start buffing it out. So this is my homemade buffing wheel, and on one end I have 3 or 4 flannels, and on the other side I think I have like 5 or 6. And I use the right side for getting into the nooks and crannies, which is what you're seeing here. And on the other side I do more or less all of the bigger buffing around the body, neck, and back. I've already buffed out the body here. You can see the body's looking pretty good, nice shine on the finish. And getting into those arms are a little bit of a pain. So we'll get in there, hold this against my belly, and go back and forth and buff it out. Like I said, 20 minutes. Make sure you don't hold it in one spot. You don't want to get any burn in. Those control cavities were really hard to get clean. So I've got a little buffing wheel on my Dremel, and there's a little bit of compound left over, so I'll try and buff those out in the horns and on the back heel here. Didn't really work out as well as I thought. I got to come back and hit it again. So we've got a reamer, and we're going to ream out the control cavity holes, so a lot of paint buildup. We'll pop in the bridge posts, get a wire to ground the strings. And this is a sort of slow, tedious process. It takes about an hour and a half for me to get a final guitar assembled. So I'll pound in the posts, tap it down so that they're flat, get the bridge in, make sure the bridge is tight. I then found a black Graphtec nut that I'm sanding down here to get it to fit into the nut slot. So we'll go back and forth and make sure it gets perfectly tight. I'm not going to glue this in yet. When I first assemble a guitar, I like to sort of let it sit and breathe for a while, then go back, sort of readjust it. So once the nut is fitting perfectly, I'll go ahead and make sure that I've got a nice level nut slot, make sure it's clean, that StewMac nut file is perfect. And then we'll load up the pickups and start wiring the backside here. So I'm going with some push-pull pots and some lace sensor steampunk gold nitro pickups. They sound pretty cool. Took a while to wire this up. I haven't done a full wiring video. I'm not sure if I really need to do that. If you guys requested here, I'll show a little bit more close up on how I'm doing this, where I ground the back of the pots and then solder to the toggle switch and the volume and the tone pod. So let me know if that's something you want to hear. And then here's some clips. There's a couple loose ends I need to tie up on this. Here's a couple pictures. I think I'll do a final completed guitar video, a little bit more detail for you guys if you want. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.